On January 6th, there's a full moon in Cancer. Also, Mars is retrograde until January 12th. Mercury is retrograde until January 18th. Uranus is retrograde until January 22nd. And then nothing is retrograde until April 21st. And so, you know in archery how you have to draw back the bow in order to fire the shot? Well, this is the time of drawing it back, taking aim before you fire. What does that mean for you? That's what we're going to talk about. Hi everyone, I'm Donna Stellhorn, your practical astrologer, here to talk to you today about the full moon. It's at 16 degrees of Cancer. We're going to do a short overview and then we're going to go sign by sign. By the way, I've been putting up some videos on tarot on this channel, and so if you're interested in what's going to be happening in January, that video is up. Also, if you want to learn how to read the tarot, I have a video course. You can check out the link in the description. So this full moon in Cancer is at 16 degrees, which is interesting because this is the fourth full moon we've had in a row that had 16 degrees. And we are going to get a total of 7 consecutive full moons at 16 degrees. So I think the universe is trying to tell us something. So let's look at the number 16. If we break this apart, using numerology, we start with the 1, and that's about being true to yourself, being pioneering, starting something new, really focusing on a single direction. Then we couple that with the 6. Now, 6, I kind of picture it as kind of like a rocking chair, like a mom with the baby rocking back and forth. And so the energy is very much like nurturing, taking care of, getting something to grow in this safe and loving environment. And then we take the number 1 plus number 6 and we get 7. Now 7 is that number of having an opinion, having a direction, knowing what you stand for. And so this is the energy that we are culminating over these 7 full moons, which we're right in the middle of, about finding what it is that we want to do and then really devoting ourselves to nurturing and growing that thing so that we have something that we are truly standing for, basically our purpose. Now, this is coupled with the fact that Jupiter just went into Aries, starting a new 12-year cycle. And so that energy between now and May, while Jupiter is in Aries, is very much about what do you want to accomplish in the next 12 years. And so all of this together seems like the universe is here giving us signs about life direction. So you might start by looking for the number of 16 in your daily life, whether it's on the license plate in front of you or comes up as the time on your phone, but looking for that and then noticing the thoughts that you had just before you saw the number. So in this chart, Mercury is moving retrograde and it's getting closer and closer to the sun. And this is a phenomenon in astrology we call combust, because the idea is that when something gets so close to the sun, it can't do anything but burst into flames, so therefore combust. Now, when Mercury is retrograde, it reminds us of things that we have left undone, that we need to go and work on, to go and do over. Now, when Mercury is this close to the sun, the things that we are doing over, the things that we are working on, are very important parts of our identity, or how we have been forming our identity later. And so this may be a time to be thinking about the thoughts that you've been having that are related to your identity and making some course corrections. So when we think about identity and what we're doing, we can use the example of the runner. So you could be a person who goes running, or you could be a runner. So when say you're a runner, that is part of your identity. Now, if what you are saying about yourself as part of your identity is negative, now as Mercury closes in on the sun, those things can be burned away. In other words, you can do something to purify your energy so that you don't have to have those negative thoughts. That is by challenging yourself to do the hard thing, and that is to ask yourself the questions. Again, is this true? Is this helpful? And really challenge thoughts that you may have had every day for years, when you challenge those thoughts, especially during a Mercury retrograde period, especially when Mercury is combust the sun, you have more of a chance of freeing yourself from this negative thinking, because thinking, which is Mercury, is sitting next to the sun, and so it's going to get burned up. It's going to turn to ash. And so you want to direct those negative thoughts towards the questions. That's where they come into the light of day. That's where they come and be seen. And from there, you can say to yourself, you know what, it's not true. And even if it is true, it's not helpful. Now, from a very practical standpoint, that means that if you have said, I'm a runner, and you're not running, then there is some disconnect between your identity and what you're doing. And that's where this gives you the opportunity to bring these two together. And so that means that you do the hard thing, and that is you get up early and you put on your shoes and you go running. Or if it's really, really cold where you are, you go to the gym and you run on the treadmill. But you do this because it's part of you. Now, you might say that you don't know your identity, that you're still discovering your identity. That's very reasonable. We can spend our entire lifetime, figuring out what it is that we like, what direction that we want to go. But when Mercury is retrograde, as it is now, we get a chance to explore that. And that is, look at what you're interested in, and then go apply some deep work to that thing. That is, instead of just thinking, I'm kind of interested in this, to actually sit down and try it out. So for the example, you might say that you're interested in animation. And so you may have heard of this program called Blender. And so maybe you're thinking, maybe I should try it out. But if you really want to establish identity, the thing is to really go in and try something. And that would be to spend, 100 hours learning Blender and then decide whether you want to incorporate animation into your identity. It's about really going in there and exploring what it is and then saying, okay, I want this to be part of me. Now, in this chart, Mars is also retrograde, and so this is about going back and doing something again. So maybe you have already gone running multiple times, or you have done animation, but somehow you've left off doing it, and now is just the time to go back to it. So Mars suggests going back and doing something over. And then Uranus is retrograde also, and when Uranus is retrograde, it says change again. And so you might say, look, I've tried this and that. I have tried different ways of doing it. Nothing has worked. And Uranus retrograde says, try again. Try something else. Keep trying things. Keep changing things up. Something is going to work. So again, practical examples might be if you're a runner and you're finding it really hard to have a breakthrough, maybe you go take a martial arts class. If you are looking to learn animation and you're looking for a breakthrough, maybe do something entirely different and go take a class on sculpting. This is about changing things up so you get a different perspective. This is why planets go retrograde. And especially having these powerful 3 retrograde now for this very concentrated 2-week period, it's time to look at what we can do over, because that is drawing the bow back so then we can send it sailing forward towards our goal. Now, the interesting thing is that once we reach the new moon, that is going to be the new moon in Aquarius, and so therefore that is the beginning of the lunar year. That is going to bring us the year of the water rabbit. I have a bunch of videos on what that energy is going to be about on the channel, so you can check those out. But this is a true new beginning that's happening. And so if you've come past January 1st and you're already not doing resolutions, or you just don't like making resolutions, it's because you're in old energy, especially this year. And so the new energy starts when we get that new moon. So we still have 2 weeks. That is 2 weeks to draw back your bow and then shoot the arrow. Okay, so we are doing tropical Western astrology in this talk today. Go ahead and listen to your ascending sign if you know it. That's going to tell you more about what's happening to you. If you don't know your rising sign, you can also listen to your sun sign. That's going to tell you more about where you as a person should be going and what you should be paying attention to. If you want to know your rising sign, send me your date of birth, time of birth, and place of birth, and I'll send you a copy of your chart. I also write for horoscope.com, and I write the weekly predictions on astrology.com. I also do readings if you're interested in getting an in-depth look at your own chart. Okay, let's go sign by sign. Okay, Aries, you guys are doing this full moon in your 4th house. That is home and family. And then when we look at the retrograde planets, Mercury's in the 10th, Mars is in the 3rd, and Uranus is in the 2nd. So we are looking here for you for some sort of 2nd house, 3rd house, 10th house experience with everything culminating in the 4th. So let me put that in English. And so what that means is there is something going on in your career that is going to require you to either do something different or talk about something in a different way. And that communication could be happening to your supervisor or to the company itself, or it could be something that you're discussing with your family. And so maybe you're considering a new position, but you would have to move, or maybe you are going from a work at home position to something where you're working in the office or vice versa. So this is also some discussion about finances and money because Uranus is going through the 2nd house. And so all of this combined says there's something going on with your career where communication is going to be very key, and that you need to bring on board somebody in your household or your family so that they know what's going on. All right, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, Mars is not making an aspect to the sun. However, the sun is very elevated in your chart, which means that you're easy to see. So someone may be asking you out, but you're not realizing that they are because you're so caught up in other things. Totally reasonable when you have stuff going on in your career like you do. So, but this is something, if you're looking for love, that you want to pay attention to, because someone could be asking you out or trying to slip you their phone number or something as you're walking out of the door. So pay attention to that aspect of your life if that's really something you're looking for. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, Venus is making a trine to Mars. So with all of the stuff going on in your life right now, you're getting a lot of support from your partner. And that means that they are giving you the best support they possibly can. Now, of course, this has to be, seen through the filter of who they are. And they can't turn into somebody else to give you the support, but they're going to make their best try to give you the support that you're looking for at this time. And so it's very easy for you to connect with this person. And yes, you may not get a hug. You might get a pep talk or some advice or something like that, but that's what this person typically does, and that is them trying to give you support. Now, when it comes to friendships in your life, Mars is making a semi-sextile to Uranus, so you have an opportunity to connect with either a new friend or someone, more probably someone from the past, because all of those planets are retrograde. And so you might want to reach out to someone that you knew a while back. This may connect somehow to your career, so that this person maybe works in your industry now, or they have an in, like they're a headhunter or something. So friendships are possible. With the semi-sextile, it's a little bit more work than you want to do, but it could prove to be worth it. So that's, if you're willing to do the little bit of effort that it's going to take, you could get a benefit. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Venus, which is making a trine to Mars, which is getting closer and closer. So this is really good energy. But remember, because Mars is retrograde, this is about doing something again, trying again, redoing something. So the energy isn't so much about focusing on the new, but it is on what you already know how to do. So even if you are looking for a new job, this is maybe that you're going back to companies that you have applied for before, or maybe this is going back to people you have worked with before. And so there is some sort of repetition energy, even as you're trying to do something new. Now, when it comes to money from traditional investments or money from your business, The energy shows no aspect between Venus and Pluto, and there's an energy of separation. And so this is that more money is going into your business than is coming back in profits. That means you're probably investing rather than taking profits. And sometimes that happens, like, the tide goes out and the tide comes in. And so this is one of those times to really be aware of your spending so that you are spending in an investment mode rather than just spending. But of course the tide will turn again and then profits will roll in. But right now, that's not what's happening. Now, when it comes to money derived from your career, so your paycheck, Venus is in that house. And even though it's not making an aspect with Uranus, it is in Aquarius, which is ruled by Uranus, and Uranus is in Taurus, which is ruled by Venus. So it's like they're talking to each other. It's almost like they're cousins. And that is that they're not necessarily the best friends, but because they're related to each other, they're going to have a good interaction. And so we do see some very positive energy here for negotiating for a better salary at the place you're at, or getting more money from your job, or a new job that you're getting, a bonus, something like that. So very positive energy towards getting more money in your paycheck. Okay, Taurus, you guys are doing this full moon in your house of communication, thinking process. Also, this is about neighbors and siblings, so third house. The Mercury is retrograde in your house of education and travel, that's ninth house. Mars is retrograde in your second house of money. And of course, Uranus is retrograde in your own sign of Taurus. And so what you're looking at here is a first house, second house, ninth house experience that is culminating in the third house. And so all of that energy boils down to some sort of big decision, either about some sort of travel that you're going to be doing or your education. And the question is about your interest and also finances. So you might be saying, should I continue in school? Do I have enough money to do it? Or should I continue in school? Do I have enough interest to do it? And so this is the decision that you're going back and forth about. This is where you're collecting in information, where you're trying new things, going different directions. This is what you're working on over the next 2 weeks. And everything that I just said about education, you can apply to travel. So that would be, do I have enough money to travel to this location, or do I have an interest in traveling to this location? And that is, again, your decision. So if you're in school or if you're on the road, this is where we see the focus. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, Mercury is not making an aspect with Venus. However, both planets are very high up in your chart, which means you're easy to see. You're just not noticing people who are noticing you. So you might want to enlist a friend to help you to point out the people who are interested in you, who are trying to have a conversation, trying to give you, that hint that they want to go out with you, because you just don't seem to be paying attention. So with that, this energy, of course, will shift. And right now, because Mercury is retrograde, you may be very much focused on someone from your past anyway, and that's why you're not looking at meeting someone new. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, Venus is not making an aspect with Pluto. In fact, they're separating. They're getting farther apart. And so that can be the two of you are just working on your own things and you're not talking as much as you were during the holidays. Or this is that there is some sort of issue between the two of you and you're not working on it. You're actually getting farther apart. Now, I'm not seeing any points of contention this time. This is just like you're drifting this direction. And so this could mean that you might want to make some sort of course correction if you want during the 2-week period. But what will probably happen is when these two energies line up again, which they certainly will in the future, then you'll work on this issue. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Mercury, which is retrograde and combusts the sun. And so this is where you want to look at your ideas for making money and take out the fluff. Or if you have the idea already, consider how you're procrastinating, how you're stopping yourself, how you're trying to do all the little things around it that aren't so necessary. Back in the day, this would be the person who would tell me they were going to start a business, and so they were designing letterhead. And like letterhead is nice, but I mean, most of you guys who are younger probably don't even know what letterhead is. And so, but it wasn't necessary for them moving forward on the business. So, because, when you start a business, the number one thing you need to start is a customer. So this is where you purify the energy and get down to what's really going to move the business forward. Now, when it comes to traditional investments or money from your business, Mercury is not making an aspect with Jupiter. And so there's a great deal of focus right now on education, as we were talking about before. So maybe you're learning how to do something for your business, learning about the back office or how to sell things or how to import, export. That would be the travel component. So there's something going on with that. You might be signing legal contracts. You've got a lot of planets in legal houses. So that could be what's going on. There is more preparation than actual, receiving of profits. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, so like a paycheck, Mercury's making a sextile to Neptune. So there is an opportunity for you to make more money in your job. Now, you do have some very nice planets, and Pluto elevated in your chart. Pluto meaning could be power, could be though sometimes a sense of who has the power. Am I the powerless one? Are you the one with the power, etc.? But the Sun and Mercury and Venus are up there as well. So you're easy to see, and you can find the person who is going to sit down with you and discuss your future at your company. So there are opportunities here. It is a sextile. It means you have to initiate, but there are opportunities. Okay, Gemini, you guys are doing this full moon in your house of money. Now, Mercury's retrograde in your house of resources. That's the 8th house. Mars, of course, is retrograde in your own sign of Gemini, and Uranus is in your 12th house, and it's retrograde. So you're really looking at a 1st house, 8th house, 12th house experience that's manifesting in the 2nd house. So what does that all mean? That means that you're making some sort of action or decision about resources that you can get. So that might mean you're going for a loan, you are talking to someone about business funding, you're talking about you're talking to someone about helping you on your business, and you're dealing with your own internal insecurities and fears around this whole topic. And so this is giving you an opportunity to, look at how you trust someone, how you go through the process of borrowing money and whether it's okay to borrow money. Is it, is this a good interest rate? How do you deal with the paperwork involved in this? And this all manifests in your 2nd house of money. So it's likely that's what the outcome is all about you gaining some sort of money or some sort of material resource, but you were dealing with your fears about taking action in the process. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, Mercury's not making an aspect with Venus. Venus is fairly high up in your chart. So I think if you are doing some sort of travel, if you're doing something in education, if you're doing something that is out of your normal sphere, you may get some attention, but it's like you're not paying attention to the people paying attention to you, and so you may miss the opportunity. So if you have somebody with you, you can say, hey, if you notice somebody asking me out, let me know if I don't notice. But this is more that this is just not the time to be working on this. This might be a time where you're updating your profile because you do have that Venus in your house of publishing, but it is mostly a time where you're pulling back. Remember, we're drawing back the bow, pulling back and deciding whether this is really what you're looking for, what could be holding you back, and dealing with the issues that you have so that when it's time to launch in a couple of weeks, that you're ready. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, there's no aspect going on between Mercury and Jupiter. Again, your focus seems to be elsewhere. You are working on very important aspects of yourself, and that is clearing out negative thinking, clearing out limiting beliefs and things that are obstacles in your life. And so you and your partner aren't really focused on your relationship. It looks like that they may be off doing something, you're off doing something. And so when this aspect forms again, you'll come together. But right now you're just doing your own thing. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that moon that is in the second house. So you may be concerned about some money issues right now, but it is making that sextile to Uranus, which does indicate that some sort of surprise help could be coming out of nowhere. And so it's very important that you do kind of the more magical things, the feng shui things, light a candle, meditate, write your affirmations, focus on, placing your feng shui cures, do things like that before you go out and look for the new job or the customers or clients or things like that. So this is, do both of those steps, especially if it's not something you normally do, because that will, involve the change. What I do like about this chart is the moon is in a money house. So ultimately you can get the money. It just emotionally you may feel like it's not there until it's actually in your hands. Now, when it comes to money derived from career or money from your business, you do show that you could be making more money than usual if you go do the hard things and step outside your comfort zone. The moon is making an inconjunct to Saturn, and you have a full 8th house. So therefore, what we see is so many money opportunities, but they do require you to change up something, to do something a little bit different. Maybe that's changing the wording of what you're saying or how you're presenting things, or maybe it is just picking up the phone and saying, hey, you owe me money, you got to pay me. So we do see some good energy in this area, but it is an inconjunct, so it's a little uncomfortable to take hold of. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, so like a paycheck, the moon's making a semi-square to Mars. So that is, if you take focused action, you can achieve your goal. Plus, you have Jupiter there in Aries, so wherever you are right now, there are some new opportunities that are brewing. Some of them are going to be so new that they haven't manifested quite yet, and that could be a new position is opening up, new possibilities for a different type of commission structure or different hours you might be getting. The semi-square is a difficult aspect, so you may want to wait for an easier aspect, but right now, if you're already in talks for getting, salary negotiations, perks, and things like that, keep at it, face it bravely because it's a semi-sextile. That means you have to fight for it a bit. And once you do, then things really start to come your way. And I think I said semi-sextile. It's a semi-square for those of you keeping track. Like there's a semi-square scorecard somewhere. Yes, put a little check by that. Okay, Cancer, this is your full moon, which means that you are 6 months into your 1 year lunar cycle. And so this is a time where you're entering a harvest period. You also want to really focus on what you already know how to do, what you are already doing, and kind of double down on that. Of course, doing the changes that we were talking about, because, everything that is retrograde is asking you to draw back the bow. So, but this is a time where you can capitalize on what you have already been working on. Now, when we look at the retrograde planets, Mercury's retrograde in your 7th house of relationships. Mars is retrograde in that house of hidden things and secrets and issues. And then Uranus is retrograde in this area of friendships and community. So really, when we look at this, you're doing a 7th house, 11th house, 12th house experience, which is manifesting in the 1st house of you. So when we put this all together, this can mean that there's something about you being vulnerable in a relationship where the friendship gets stronger or the relationship becomes a friendship. It is something where you're revealing something about yourself, and therefore you feel more connected to this person and they feel more connected to you. Now, by the same token, they may be revealing stuff as well. And so therefore the two of you are now getting closer together because the things you were feeling vulnerable about are now there, exposed, and the other person isn't laughing at it. They're not, rejecting you. They're actually embracing you because you are willing to be vulnerable. So that's the energy. And this, of course, manifests as you because it's your full moon. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, the moon's not making an aspect with Pluto. You have a lot of energy in relationship houses, and with all the retrograde energy, it's just not time for new love. So if this is somebody who you dated once or twice, or you knew him in high school or something like that, then yes, I do think there can be a connection during this time. But for somebody brand new, this is difficult. You're going to have to wait for this energy to line up. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, the moon's making an inconjunct to Saturn, plus you have moon in the first, and then you have Sun, Mercury, Pluto in your seventh house of relationships. And so there has to be some effort done here to make this relationship go more smoothly. Now, the effort can be on their side. You can make suggestions to them, but because this is your full moon, it may be best for you to make the changes or the shifts, or to go back and say, we think we solved this problem, but we need to go back and look at it again. This is also where the two of you could come together in more harmony. Again, just getting over some little hurdle, some little problem, and then once you've made the adjustment, things go better. So an inconjunct is difficult in a lot of ways, but the bottom line here is that what you're looking for is once you make the adjustment, things get better. Sorry, I felt a little distracted at the end of that because I was looking and counting the numbers in my head. This is a really wide inconjunct. And so when it's wide, there's just a remote opportunity for making the adjustment. So if you want to wait and doing all of this until the energy lines up more easily, absolutely. But there may be one time over this 2-week period where you do come together, where if you make an adjustment, you can improve the relationship. And so you can watch for that. But that's why I was a little hesitant when I was talking before, because it is quite wide, which means that it doesn't happen every time you come together, not by a long shot. It is a rare occurrence, so it may only happen once during this 2-week period. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from the Sun in the seventh house, which is conjunct that Mercury, which is getting closer and closer. And so this is very much about your connections with other people. And it is, as the Mercury gets closer, it kind of destroys any preconceived notions you have or expectations that you might have, and leaves you at a place where you're very open to hear what the other person is offering. And if they're offering something that is useful to your business or to your finances, then it's great. But if they are putting too many strings on something, then go ahead and take that trine to Uranus and make a change and go a different direction. Now, you have a very strong house of relationships, partnerships, mentors, influencers, celebrities. So if the person in front of you is not going to be helpful, then move on to the next person. That is, keep making changes and continue to change your tactics and the way you do things so that you can meet people who can help you achieve your financial goals. Now, when it comes to money derived from your business or traditional investments, the Sun is making a trine to Uranus, so you're likely to make more money over this next 2 weeks than usual. You also have Venus and Saturn there, and so the Venus does say, woo, windfall, but the Saturn says make sure you save some aside for your taxes in the future or some other obligations that you might have, because when you get a windfall, if you just run out and spend it, you could hit a cash flow problem at the end of this 2-week period. So this is a time where I do see more money coming in, but you want to be prudent about how you use the money. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, so that's like a paycheck, you have kind of a disassociated little connection here. So there's no aspect between Sun and Venus. However, Venus is in a money house, it's in Aquarius, Uranus is in that house, the 11th house of money derived from career, and it is in Taurus, which is ruled by that Venus. I know, that's a lot of jargon there, but what that means is there's a very loose connection. So what I'm seeing is it's more likely for you to get a perk rather than actual cash. So that is more flexibility, more vacation time, a discount on insurance or something like that. That's where the possibility is this time, rather than a straight raise. So if you get a no on the question of a raise, look for what else you can ask for. Okay, Leo, you guys are doing this full moon in your house of intuition, also spiritual connection, the hidden side of yourself, your shadow self. And so this is then also in conjunction with the Mercury in your 6th house of work and health, Uranus in your 10th house of career, and then Mars in your house of community and organizations and all of that. Don't know why I blanked on that. So ultimately, what this boils down to is this is a 6th house, 10th house, 11th house experience that is manifesting in your 12th house. So all of that, when we translate that into English, it means that there's something going on in your job, in the daily routines and who you work with and who you meet, that you are working out with your inner self. And that is that maybe you are drawing away from these people, maybe you're drawing away from the job itself, and so that you are, working in a way that you're kind of insulating yourself from the negativity that might be around you. Or this is that you are yourself here stationary while the world around you is changing. And that is new colleagues from that 6th house, new career from the 10th house, new community from the 11th house. And here you are saying, what parts of me are still here and what parts of me are changing. So from a more practical standpoint, this really does kind of point to changes in your career right now. And that is new opportunities for either transferring from your department to another department or going to a whole new job. And that the community, that can be networking or professionals, can be very helpful along the way. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, the sun's not making an aspect with Jupiter, and which is in line with all of these retrogrades. It's more likely right now that you would start going out with someone that you went out with once before, or that you knew in high school, or some sort of past connection with that person, rather than somebody who's brand new. Now, it's interesting because Venus is right on the horizon, and that means that there might be someone that you're quite attracted to, but there are forces right now that are keeping you, steered away from meeting someone new. So if this is a brand new person, just hold off on trying to meet them. You'll probably be blocked anyway. And so just wait for a couple of weeks, because what will manifest and transpire over those 2 weeks will help you either come together or help you recognize that this is not your match. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, the sun's making a trine to Uranus, plus with that Venus, you have a lot of positive energy. That means the two of you are coming together. You're really helpful with each other. This person is supporting you in your growth and working with your shadow self. This is also that the two of you are just getting along really well. You're finding your groove. And so the energy for existing love relationships is quite good. Then when it comes to friendships, you have a lot of positive energy here because Mercury is conjunct the sun, and you have Mars in Gemini, which is ruled by that Mercury in that house. Now that all adds up to someone coming back into your life for a friendship. That is that you want to see who's trying to reach out to you through social media, who doesn't necessarily have your email address, or what is the people from the reunion committee, are they trying to get a hold of you? And maybe it's time to consider, at least saying that you'll go to the reunion, even if the reunion falls outside this 2-week period. So there is an opportunity to renew a friendship or to heal a friendship. And so if you want to take that, that's here now for you. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Mercury, which is getting closer and closer to the sun. It is retrograde. It's in that 6th house of work and routines. And so this is very much about taking your idea and now building the model, actually putting it into practice. And so maybe you have an idea to do a video course. This says, sit down, turn on the camera, start doing this so you can find out what works and what doesn't work. All of this is leading to that trine to Uranus in the 10th. So it's not quite time to launch, but it will be soon. So we do see that more money's coming, but right now you need that boots on the ground, hands-on sort of activity. That's what's going to make the extra money happen. Now, when it comes to traditional investments or money from your business, Mercury's making a sextile to Neptune, so you're probably going to be making more money than usual in these areas. Now, it is a sextile, so it does require some work, but fortunately the Mercury's in the house of work, so you're more work-oriented than usual anyways. And so that means that you can get the work done to make the extra profits. But this could be a profitable 2 weeks for you. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, you have some mixed energy because while that Mercury is retrograde and it's getting closer to the sun, technically it is in a hidden house for you. And that means that the boss may be interested in giving you the raise, but they can't find you at that moment. And when you want to find the boss to ask for the raise, they can't be found. Now, Mars is in Gemini, which is ruled by that Mercury, and that is in that house, that 11th house. But that, again, it's not making an aspect with the Mercury. And so I'm kind of feeling like there's like a hit or a miss, like the boss says, hey, last week I was going to ask you about this right now it's on hold. So you might just want to wait until after this 2-week period before you start asking. Okay, Virgo, you guys are doing this full moon in your 11th house. That is about community and connections, also about the future, about thinking about what you want to do, 1 year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. It is also about technology. So this is the core of it where a lot of your attention is. Now, when we look at the retrogrades, Mercury is retrograde in your house of self-expression. That's the 5th house. Mars is retrograde in your 10th house. That is career. And then Uranus is retrograde in your 9th house. That is education, knowledge, wisdom, spiritual connection. So when we look overall, you're doing a 5th house, 9th house, 10th house experience that's manifesting in the 11th. And so all that adds up to be some sort of career opportunity or education opportunity that is based in art, music, design, some sort of creativity. And this is going back maybe to an old job, maybe going back to an old type of school or a form of study that you were doing before, so that you can investigate whether there's something here for you. And it could be that you're taking skills that you have in one area and applying it to another area. And so that's why you're going back to this type of job or this type of school, so that you can get a handle on what it is that you need to apply your old skills to something different. And all of this is manifesting in this area of the community. So that means you're going to show your work. You're going to tell people that you're doing this, and then you get the support. It is also something that you're putting in your long-term future. And so that means that this doesn't happen overnight, that this is just planting the seeds. So, and of course we can pull in the technology. So there's probably some technology component here. I don't know, there's not too many jobs these days that don't have some sort of technology connected to it. So that wasn't a difficult prediction there. So, but mostly this is, how can you express yourself? And as you're finding, how can you do it in a way that you're a professional, so you're paid for it? Or how can you do it in a way that you are the student becoming the master or becoming the teacher? That's where the focus is. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, you have a full 5th house. That's Sun, Mercury, and Pluto, plus Mercury's making a semi-sextile to Saturn, which is kind of a little wimpy aspect, but it's still an aspect. So there is some energy here for new love in and amongst all these retrogrades, which say, don't do something new, do something that is old and finish that up first. So you have a little bit of conflicting energy here, and that might just mean that you meet someone, but the timing's not right. They're about to travel, or you are, and so you don't get an opportunity to see them until the 2 weeks has passed. And that's probably the best thing, is to meet the person and then don't rush into, lots of dating at this time, because the energy is much more about looking at the past and dealing with that. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, you have some very positive energy. Mercury's making a sextile to Neptune. So you can work things out. You can come together and strengthen the relationship. You can have a good time together. All of these things are predicated on you initiating them. So if you want to work out something from the past, you bring it up and you say, I want to listen to what you have to say about this situation. I want to hear what your feelings were about this. That will go a long way to helping this. But just coming together and saying, hey, I have an idea, let's go do something fun. Let's go do something that is a little bit different than what we've done before, kind of a twist on an old thing. That could be the fun thing that you do, and that's why we see a sextile here. Now, when it comes to friendships, you have some pretty strong energy here. The moon's making an opposition to Mercury, and then we've got a lot of planets here in the 5th house, plus in the 11th house is the full moon. So we have numerous things that point to the fact that you could be reconnecting with a friend. You could find somebody that you went to college with or used to work with. Somebody could reach out to you and say, we haven't seen each other in a while, so you could get back together. So there is some good energy for friendships here. If you want to expand your circle of friends, it's a good time to reach out to people and see who you can connect with. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Venus, which is in your house of work and routines. And Venus, as it moves forward and Mars moves backwards, are going to get closer and closer to making a very strong trine. So this is some very positive energy. Mars is elevated in your chart, which means that things that you do are easily seen, but that Venus is still in that house of work, which is one of your hidden houses, and so that means go behind the scenes right now, get the work done, then present to the world, and as you do, then you can find out what kind of changes you need to make or tweaks you need to do, or what you need to do to reach your audience. So that is anything from sending out your resume, like send out your resume once and then review your resume and see if it was a fit. Like, sometimes you have to send it out and then when you read it, you go, oh, there's the spelling error. And then when you send it out the next time, it's better. So this is a time to incrementally make something better. And so that's where your source of money is. Now, when it comes to traditional investments or money from your business, you look like you're making more money than usual because of that aforementioned Venus trine Mars. So that is that you have opportunities to take profits from whatever marketing campaign you did. You're getting more customers, more clients, more patients. So you have opportunities to make more money. You want to focus on that. When it's a trine, it's very easy, but it can be so easy that you don't pay attention to it because other things that are painful or stressful, those get your attention. So notice this, because when you notice it, you can expand it. Now, when it comes to money derived from your career, so that would be like a paycheck, the moon's not making an aspect to Venus, and they're not really talking to each other at all. And so that means that this is not a time to really bring it up. It's time really to focus more on your creative activities, on things that could expand your career, but not necessarily say that you want the profits or the results from that right now. Instead, just focus on creating the best you can, learning new things, expanding your markets, and then you'll be ready to ask for a raise at another period. Okay, Libra, you guys are doing this full moon right in your 10th house. That is the most elevated house. That means that you are very easily seen. So as you put things out into the world, anything from your resume to your online profile for dating, all of that can be more easily seen now. Now, when we look at the retrograde planets, Mercury is retrograde in your 4th house. That's home and family. Mars is retrograde in the 9th house. That's education, also travel. And then Uranus is retrograde in your house of resources. And so that is everything from investments and things like that to people that can come and help you. So you're really looking at doing a 4th house, 8th house, 9th house experience that's manifesting in the 10th house. So what I think this all boils down to is I believe that you are kind of weighing the ideas of either going back to school or doing some sort of writing, teaching, publishing venture where you don't know yet if that's going to be good for your career. You don't know whether you're going to have the resources to complete it. You don't know, like if you're writing something, how you're going to pay the bills while you're writing this thing, or if you're going back to school, are you going to be able to cover these loans? So it all comes down to, you need to talk to your family about this and the people who are close to you to get their opinions about it. But the ultimate thing is you're deciding whether this is good for your career. And so does the education or travel, this all could be travel too, is that in line with something for your career? Or is this something where you're actually running away from your career? So you think, if I could just go to school for a while, then I don't have to think about a career. Then yeah, that's kind of backwards. So that's where I'm seeing all of this focus is you're saying, I want to do this for a career. Now, can I afford the time it's going to take to get ready for this? Whether that is you doing the work of writing or putting together a marketing package or your video courses or things like that, or going back to school. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, you do have Venus in that house. So your ruler is in that fifth house of romance, which is nice. It's not making an aspect to Uranus. And so the problem is there does feel like there's a little disconnect. Like you're interested in someone, but they're not necessarily interested in you. Now, the full moon is elevated, so you're attracting attention. But again, I don't know that you're attracting the attention that you want. Like it seems like you're being chased by someone who you're not so interested in, or maybe they are still in a relationship and that bothers you, which is reasonable. So the things here is that the energy is not really lining up during this 2-week period. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, it's an entirely different story because Venus is making a trine to Mars, and we got Jupiter there right in that house. And so the Jupiter says, let's really expand how we are doing this relationship. So there's a great deal of desire to focus on relationships right now. And so if you're in an existing relationship, you may be really compelled to make the relationship better, to expand the time you're spending together or how much quality time is together, and really getting to know each other better. So this is some very good energy for your existing love relationship. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Pluto in the 4th house. And so, as we were saying before, there's some sort of family conference that needs to happen, or you're pulling resources with family members. You're also pulling money from that Mars, which is retrograde in your house of education. And that's also about contracts and agreements. And so this is very much about looking at, first of all, what are the contracts that you have with yourself? Well, what are you requiring of yourself that you need to do to make what you want happen? The second is that looking at contracts that maybe you have signed already and seeing where you are locked in, how you can get out of these things, or how you can use the contract to your benefit. This is also about education. And so you might go through the list of, in business or in finance, you might say, all right, I really know how to, get a job. I really know how to work an hourly pay or, salaried position. But I don't know how to invest. I don't know what a 401k is. I don't know what an ETF is. So this is a time where you could go back and fill in some of the holes in your education. And now, these days, it's so much simpler than it used to be because there is, literally a million videos on every single topic. And so that means that you could get the information you need by sitting down and just watching a few videos. And from there, then you can say, okay, now what do I need to know next? And what do I need to know next? So I see some great opportunities for you for bringing in money, but this is the stipulation now, especially because that Mars is retrograde. Now, when it comes to traditional investments or money from your business, you're probably making about the same as usual. I do see some outgo. There looks like there's one big outgo. Maybe this is an investment in something. Maybe you're buying some equipment. Maybe you're, paying quarterly taxes or something like that. So there's some sort of outgo that does give you a little bit of a cash flow issue. And I should have said before, there's no aspect going on between Venus and Pluto. So that's That's what the issue is. But there is going to be ultimately that aspect of Venus and Mars. I just think that a lot of the profits are going to happen outside the 2-week period because that aspect is getting tighter and tighter. So I do think that ultimately, right outside this 2-week period, you could be making more. But right now, watch for some sort of outgo, one-time, or annual outgo that is kind of messing with your cash flow. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, so like a paycheck, the sun is not making an aspect to Pluto, nor is it making an aspect with Mars. So this is not the time to be asking. This is not a time to focus on that. Because the moon is elevated, you might be looking for a new job, and you could get a job interview at this time. But mostly what I see is there's a great deal of emphasis on the right half of the chart, which that indicates that there is more, you're waiting for somebody else to initiate the conversation, which I think is a good idea at this time. So let them come to you and say, we want to give you a better position or more money, or we want to interview you. I think that can happen, but right now it's not the right time to ask for a raise. Okay, Scorpio, you guys are doing this full moon in your 9th house. This is about education, travel, legal matters, but more importantly, it is about your beliefs. Those things that tell you how the world works. It's not really a thing. It is an idea that tells you how the world works. Something you have adopted over the course of your life that you're holding on to that says that the universe is a wonderful place and going to support you, or the universe is a terrible place and you have to be on guard. So or somewhere in between. So this is where the moon is lighting up this house and giving you this opportunity to look at these issues. Now, when we look at Mercury retrograde, it's in your 3rd house of communication. Mars is retrograde in your 8th house of resources from others. And then Uranus is retrograde in your house of relationships. So you're really doing a 3rd house, 7th house, 8th house experience, which is manifesting in the 9th house. And that is that there's some sort of communication thing going on with others where people have promised you something and maybe they're coming through, maybe they're not coming through, and this is altering your belief system. So that is, you're looking at how people are treating you and deciding how you see the whole universe. And sometimes that's good, sometimes that is not good. Sometimes that's good because if you find that people are generally a certain way, then you can start to extrapolate your belief system. However, if you're taking a very small sampling, like the people who say, I've met a bunch of people and they're all like this, but their bunch of people is like 3, so versus, like 20 or 30 people, so to branch out a little bit and meet someone, etc. Now, if I'm going to get very specific about this, this is how you are communicating with others, how you are making your ideas known, especially when you need something. So is it that you don't ask when you need help and then you get frustrated when people aren't helpful? Or is it that you are asking very directly and you're getting refused? And this is shifting something spiritually inside of you to hopefully go get new people if you're getting denied. So that would be ideal. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, Neptune's making a sextile to Pluto, and the moon is elevated. And with the elevated moon, you're more visible, which means that people can find you. That is fantastic. But with all these retrogrades, it's going to be somebody who you've already met. So is that going to be a new love? Only if they were in some sort of other role in your life, like you worked together at one point, but now you don't, and now they want to go out with you. Or you were in the same group together, and so they were an acquaintance, and now they want to be something much, much more. So that's the kind of thing that we're seeing here with how everything's lined up. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, Venus is not making an aspect with Pluto. So there's less energy going on between the two of you, which means that, you're in your own little world, they're in their own little world. And so you may not be coming together. Plus, with the full moon up in the 9th house of travel, perhaps one of you is not even home, you know, perhaps they're off somewhere doing something else. So that can be the same problem, is you're just not in the same space, so therefore you're just doing your own thing and not really connecting. So this energy will line up in the future. So if there's some big thing that you need to work out, this is just not quite the time yet. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Jupiter, which is now in Aries. And it's going to be there, I think, until May 16. I'll put on the screen if I'm incorrect about that. This means that you have started a new 12-year cycle. So this is a time where you are just now planting some seeds. And so it's just time for you to stop for a moment, if you haven't done it already, and think about what your financial goals are for the next year, but also for the next 12 years. To look and say to yourself, this is what I want to achieve. Now, oftentimes we can get really stuck as this is going through your sixth house, and the sixth house is, you know, what's the routines that we're going to do? What are the steps that we're going to take? And sometimes you can't know the steps. In fact, we run into so many times, or at least I do, with people who say, you know, once I solve this problem, you know, once my health is okay, or, you know, once I'm out of debt, or, you know, once I've, you know, solidified this relationship, or once I've found a relationship, then I can go do all of this other stuff. And I understand the logic of it is, you know, like, let's try to do things one at a time. But if you've been in that stuck place trying to finish something for a very long period, and so therefore everything else is on hold, it's time to leapfrog over that thing and say, these are my goals. I don't know how I'm going to get there. I don't know how I'm going to finish that thing that I'm stuck on, but I'm going to say, I'm going to go for these goals. And you just plant the seed, and planting the seed is just, you know, writing it down or stating it to the universe, or, you know, putting it under a candle, you know, and meditating on it, that sort of thing. That's what we're looking at here. When it comes to your money derived from business or money from traditional investments, there's no aspect going on between Jupiter and Mercury. However, Mars is still retrograde in the 8th house, and so that does mean that there is some opportunities here to go back over something that you've done before and collect some additional money, or to collect money that's owed to you. So that's something you may want to focus on. That could bring in more money. Otherwise, you're making about the same as usual. Now, when it comes to money derived from your career, so like a paycheck, again, there's no aspect going on between Mercury and Jupiter. Plus, now this time there's no Mars to give that little extra push. So what's happening here is really that you're making about the same as usual. It's very difficult right now for you to ask for a raise or to get some sort of notice in that area. So you probably want to wait until an aspect does form, and then you'll have more opportunities. Okay, Sagittarius, you guys are doing this full moon, lighting up your house of resources from others, connections, and also about power. That is all the 8th house. Now, when we look at Mercury retrograde, that's in your house of money. That's the 2nd house. Then Mars is retrograde in your house of relationships and partnerships. And then Uranus is retrograde in your house of work and routines. So basically, you're doing a 2nd house, 6th house, 7th house energy that is manifesting in your 8th house. So when we take all of that and we boil that down, what we get here is that there is some sort of connection that you're trying to make with someone else that is going to either lead to money, actual profits, or a job, and you are seeing whether you have the resources to fulfill whatever it is, and so, or whether the other side does. So can they pay you? Are they going to sign up for whatever it is that you're offering? Are they going to give you the interview or give you the job opportunity that you're looking for? Does the job opportunity pay what you're expecting? Are the duties going to be around what you're thinking? So, and it looks like you're very much waiting for somebody else to do something about this, for them to initiate. This is all something that has been in process and now is coming to fruition. Overall, this energy looks like it can manifest into something that has already begun. It's something that is a continuation of a process. And so if you had been initiating some sort of action before, then go ahead and do that again instead of just waiting for them. But if you feel that the ball is in their court, then you just have to be patient. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, Jupiter's making a sextile to Mars. So there is an opportunity here. Plus, Jupiter has now gone into your house of romance, the 5th house. That gives you more opportunities to meet someone new. Now, there's a lot of planets below the horizon here, so that means you're probably not getting out as much, although the full moon is at least above the horizon. Thank goodness for that. So, but it does mean you have to make a conscious effort to get out to meet someone. Meeting someone online, that's a very good way to make an initial connection, but you have to have a face-to-face meeting with the person to really know who they are. So that's the next step, and that is a great possibility during this 2-week period. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, there's no aspect going on between Mercury and Jupiter. Mars is retrograde in that house, and so that can bring up some old issues. But because there's no aspect, it's very difficult for you to work on those issues at this time. It's quite possible that you're very focused on your stuff and your partner's very focused on their stuff. And so you're not really coming together to work on this. What will happen in this case is that when Mars does start to go direct and crosses this area again, then you'll get a chance to work on that. That'll be a few weeks from now. But if this is something that you really want to work on now, something that is upsetting to you or irritating, you're going to have to make an effort to get your partner to sit down, because without an aspect there, you're not naturally coming together. Now, when it comes to friendships, you have a big opportunity because Venus is making a sextile to Jupiter. And so even though, again, many of the planets are below the horizon and you're not really leaving the house, you have an opportunity to meet someone for a friendship or to expand your circle of friends. And that is to, if somebody gives you an invitation because of that Mars in the 7th house, consider taking it, because this can lead to something where you meet somebody who does become a good friend. This is also a really good time to reestablish a friendship. So that is reaching out to people who you have known in the past, but you've kind of lost touch with. So that would activate that Mars retrograde in your 7th house. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Saturn in your house of communication. Plus, you have Sun, Mercury, and Pluto in your house of money. So you have a fairly strong money chart this time. This means that you have to apply the things that you know how to do, your talents, your abilities to different ways of making money. So that is, if you enjoy teaching or you enjoy art or you enjoy communicating in some way, this is what to focus on. Now, this also does say that with that Saturn, that some sort of contract or agreement needs to happen, and that is if you don't have another party to make that contract with, maybe you need to make the contract with yourself. Maybe you need to actually write it out as though it's a contract to say, you're going to finish your project on this day, and then you will get some sort of benefits if you do this. If you don't, there is some sort of penalty. And so something like that can help use up this contract energy and even attract the contract that you're looking for. Now, also with the Sun in the 2nd house, it does say that there is a desire to stay in that comfort zone, and that you may want to see if you can exceed. The Sun's in Capricorn, Mercury's in Capricorn, Pluto's in Capricorn. All of that is ruled by the ruler of your house of money. So there's an awful lot here focused on you trying to do things perfectly, or you trying to do things within your comfort zone. And so this is where you want to break free of that. Now, when it comes to traditional investments or money from your business, the moon's making an inconjunct to Saturn. So there is, as I was saying before, if you get out of your comfort zone, there is profits to be made. So that might be new types of investments, that are not traditional, but just new to you, or that you're doing something different in your business, or more likely putting yourself forward or taking some extra steps when it comes to your business, not just trusting in the old ways of doing things, but looking at something you're still familiar with, but changing it up because of these retrogrades, trying new things in a sense of, repeating energy, going back over something, seeing what you can tweak. That's what's going to bring you more money. And it is likely, if you can do some of these things, stepping out of your comfort zone, that you will make more money over this next 2 weeks. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, like a paycheck, Venus is not making an aspect to Saturn. Venus is not in a money house, and so they are going to catch each other. So this is just not the right time to be asking for a raise. You're going to have that all line up in a few weeks, and so you want to watch for that. But right now, the most you can do is plant a seed. But if they have said no in the past, the retrograde energy will cause them to say no again. So you may not want to risk that. Okay, Capricorn, you guys are doing this full moon in your house of relationships, partnerships, and connections. And then Mercury is retrograde in your own sign. And so that's in the first house. And then Mars is retrograde in your sixth house of daily routines and habits. And then Uranus is retrograde in your house of pleasure, fun, romance, all of creativity, all of that, fifth house. So this is really for you a first house, fifth house, sixth house experience manifesting in the seventh house of relationships. And so this is very much about you taking yourself, putting yourself in situations where you can be creative on a regular basis, or where you go do something fun on a regular basis. And this is what creates connections and relationship for you. So if you're looking for a relationship or you want to improve your existing relationship, this is about bringing in creativity and fun into your daily life. And that's what these retrogrades are talking about. Now, when it comes to a love relationship, specifically new love, Venus is not making an aspect with Saturn. So what's really happening here is you are reconnecting with somebody from the past, because I do think relationship energy is so strong for you right now. And so that means that there can be new love if that's what you're looking for, but it's a new love in quotes, because it's somebody that you either dated before or you knew them in some other capacity in your life, and now you are finding maybe that you're going to be dating. So that's the opportunity there. There also is the idea that Venus is getting closer to Saturn. So I think at the end of the 2 weeks, there may be more of an ability to meet somebody brand new. But right now, the focus is on rekindling something from the past. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, the moon's making an inconjunct to Saturn. So there is something where either the two of you as a couple are outside your comfort zone for some reason, and so that's pulling the two of you together, or you have the opportunity to find a compromise in something that has been a little intractable in your relationship. So, and that is, like maybe one of you really likes cop dramas and the other one wants Harlequin romances, and you find that Harlequin romance with cops in it or something like that. It's an odd little way to compromise, and it may take a little bit of effort to find a way to get both of you happy, but it is possible because there's an aspect. So I do see improvement in your love relationship over the next 2 weeks. Now, when it comes to friendships, there is an opportunity here. It's just a semi-sextile between Saturn and Pluto. So there is an opportunity. Now, I'm feeling like with the South Node there in your house of friendships, which is the 11th house, that you may be pulling someone in from your past, someone you were friends with before, or an acquaintance you had who is now in your circle again. So the semi-sextile says there's a little bit of effort that's needed to make some sort of friendship happen. Like maybe you're really busy, even though they want to go to lunch with you, or vice versa. So you have to be a little bit patient with this energy. But if you are looking to expand your circle of friends, you do have some energy happening over this next 2 weeks. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from the Uranus, which we've been talking about. It's retrograde. It is forming, or did form, that trine with the sun, and will form a trine with Mercury. So you have some good energy that you are still feeling and that will be strengthening. as well as you're pulling energy from that Saturn that's still going through your second house of money. So, and the Saturn, of course, is about learning to be more responsible with money, to be prudent with your choices, learn how to economize, whereas the Uranus says where to take risks, where to do something different than other people do. So there's some sort of balance going on between the two of these. It's not this huge thing that you were doing before where these two planets were making an aspect with each other, because I think that was more destroying old systems so you could rebuild your systems to make them stronger. Now you have, like, you've been through the stress test, so now things are better. That's great. So now more with that Uranus retrograde making those trines is to look at what would be easy, but still, like finishing something off that you hadn't finished before. Like, how can you change it up a little bit? How can you make it a little bit different? Maybe it's something you've done entirely before, and now you just want to take a derived a version of it, like if you had a program to help realtors communicate, and then you would take it to, okay, now how about stockbrokers communicating, or how about doctors communicating, or maybe it would be, instead of that, it would be, okay, now how do realtors manage their time, or how should realtors manage their money? So taking one part that you had and then extrapolating that into some different money-making opportunities. Now, when it comes to traditional investments and money from your career, you look like you're having a good time because the sun is making that trine to Uranus. So there are definite money-making opportunities for you. I think over the next 2 weeks, you're likely to make more money. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, Mars is making a semi-sextile to Uranus, and Saturn's making a semi-sextile to Pluto. So, like, all of your bases are covered, but they're all covered by a semi-sextile. And as we've talked many times on this channel, a semi-sextile is about taking care of the little details, because if you do that, then you get a good outcome. So what could be the little details? Perhaps setting up the time with your supervisor to talk to them about the raise, maybe having your list of accomplishments ready, maybe pulling in somebody who's going to advocate for you, etc. So it's getting the ducks in a row is what helps. So, and if you do that, then you can be successful. Okay, Aquarius, so you guys are doing this full moon in your house of routines, health, wellness, habits, also your work. This is all the 6th house. And so that's the house that's lit up. When we look at what's retrograde, we see that Mercury is retrograde in your 12th house. Mars is retrograde. And I should say 12th house is your secrets, your shadow self, your desire to escape, your desire to remove boundaries, your ability to reach, the cosmos. And then Mars is retrograde in your 5th house of creativity and pleasure and romance and, all of the fun things in life, self-expression. And then Uranus is retrograde in your 4th house of home and family. So when we look overall, you're doing a 4th house, 5th house, 12th house experience, which is manifesting in your 6th house. So all of that comes down to you breaking free and being more creative because of or despite family conditioning. So that is, maybe you are reaching back into your past and finding things where your family did really support your art or support your creativity, and then you're making a breakthrough, or you're finding how those things were blocked in your childhood, those things where you were held back in those areas, and you've decided to dissolve those boundaries. And how it manifests for you is that on a daily basis, then you start to do the things that bring you joy, the things that where you have self-expression or your creativity. And so that could mean that you start writing every day or drawing every day or playing music every day. You start to do that, and the rest of this energy starts to unravel. And what you can come up with is no more knots, no more blocks, but something that's smooth and straightforward. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, you have a really good chart because Mercury is making a trine to Uranus, and Mars is in Gemini, retrograde in that house. So So the only caveat is they're probably not brand new in your life. You've probably been talking to this person already, or maybe you went out with them once, and maybe it was years ago and you didn't even remember. Or maybe you knew them in some different area of your life. Maybe you were in a group together, or maybe you worked together before, but now romance can happen. So a very nice energy here. It does, because the Mercury, which is the ruler of your 5th house, is in the 12th house, the hidden house. You might keep this relationship a secret for a little bit. And that could be for many reasons. Maybe you still work for the same company. So maybe you're not sure that it's going to work, and so you don't want to tell your kids about it yet. Something like that. So you are maybe keeping it hidden, but it is possible to find new love during this period. And then when we look at your existing love relationships, the sun is making a trine to Uranus. So again, you have really good energy here. Even though there's nothing going on in your 7th house and there's a lot of stuff in those personal houses for you, it's almost like you are revealing something about yourself to your partner, and that because of that, you're getting closer together, or you're finding out some things about your partner, maybe about their past, their childhood, something where you have a shared experience and now you feel closer together. So I do see the two of you doing quite well over the next 2 weeks. Now, when it comes to friendships, Jupiter's making a semi-square to Uranus. Now, a semi-square is an energy of kind of having to take an action and then things work out. So that is that you have an opportunity to meet someone new for a friendship, or actually even many friends, but you have to get yourself to the meeting. You have to be seen. And that is a little bit of a challenge for you because the only planets you have above the horizon in this chart are in your 12th house. So even when you're there, you're a little bit of a wallflower, you're a little bit invisible. And so you have to kind of make some noise when you go someplace and say, I'm here for the first time, I want to meet you, or this is the 10th time I've been here and you haven't noticed, but I'm here. And so that's the kind of thing you need to do if you want to increase your circle of friends. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Neptune and also Jupiter, which is now in Aries. Now, this is the second time, of course, that Jupiter was in Aries. It was in Aries last summer, but now it's there for real. And so that means that it's time for new projects. It's time to look at what you want to accomplish over a 12-year period and a 12-month period. And so that doesn't mean that something's going to manifest over the next 2 weeks, because we have all of that stuff retrograde that we've been talking about. This is more about just making the list, about just saying, all right, these are the things I want to accomplish. And not just these are the amounts of money that I want to do, but what is it that you want to do also? So, take trips or buy property or things like that, because sometimes you'll find that people are better at manifesting stuff and experiences than they are actual cash. So sometimes asking for cash just doesn't really manifest stuff. But if you ask for, an object, then you find that your best friend says, I have 2 of these, let me give you one. And then poof, you have it. So this is where to look. Is like, first, you plant the seed by saying what it is that you want. Now, when it comes to traditional investments or money from your business, you're probably making more than usual because Mercury is making a sextile to Neptune. And so that means that somebody may come around to purchase from you again, or you may find that people are repeating. I guess I just said that, so I don't need to repeat that. Or that somebody is referring somebody. They say when you get new clients during a retrograde, they either come back a second time or you get 2 clients. So because things tend to double. So this is actually a good time to do marketing, as long as you double check your copy, because it's super easy to put the wrong phone number or the wrong link or things like that during Mercury retrograde. But once you're sure that the copy is good, it's really good to market during the retrograde, because people remember it from previous times, and then they say, now I'm going to take action. Now, when it comes to money from career, like, getting a paycheck, there's no aspect between Jupiter and Neptune and no planets in the 11th house. You've got major planets in the 12th house, your moon's in a hidden house. So it's not really beneficial right now to try and ask for a raise, because they may say, who are you? So this is a better time to be working behind the scenes, looking for ways that you can maximize, your joy in the job. And if you can't, then giving yourself the time to work on joyful things, projects you want to work on outside of work hours. So right now you're making about the same as usual, but I do see you working more behind the scenes than being out front in the limelight. Okay, Pisces, you guys are doing your full moon in this house of self-expression, romance, creativity, fun. This is all your 5th house. And then when we look at the retrogrades, Mercury's retrograde in your house of community and friendships and technology in the future. That's the 11th house. Mars is retrograde in your house of home and family. That's the 4th house. And Uranus is retrograde in your house of communication. And so that's the 3rd house. Now, when we put this all together, you're doing a 3rd house, 4th house, 11th house experience that's manifesting in your 5th house. And so how this all comes together is, it looks to me like you have some new ideas, new innovative thinking, and you have wanted to do these things for a while, but you're getting some pullback from either your family, the people you live with, or your extended family, especially siblings, cousins, people like that. So that there is some sort of, like a divide between them thinking that you're part of the family and you wanting to go do something different. And so this looks like an argument or a discussion you've had in the past, and now you're having it again. And this all is to manifest in your area of creativity. So I think whatever it is that you're wanting to do is about self-expression. So that is that maybe you want to leave your accountant job so that you can go play music, or that you have a novel and you want to put it out there, but maybe family is like, oh, we're in this novel and we don't feel comfortable with that. And, so there's some sort of discussion that's happening and some sort of crossroads that you're at, because all of these retrogrades are having you go back over something to see if there's something you can change, tweak, do something different, so that you can find some sort of compromise or some way through this conundrum. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, the moon's making a lovely trine to Neptune, and so there is an opportunity to meet someone new, except for the fact that all these planets are retrograde right now, and so it's possible that you've known this person before in some way. Now, because this has a connection to Neptune, it could even be like a past life connection. And so this is somebody that you don't know, but you do. You feel really comfortable around them. They feel so familiar, etc. So, but it's also quite possible that you dated this person once before, or that you knew them, they were part of a group that you belonged to. You worked with them. They were a neighbor or something like that. So like your paths have crossed before, and now it's crossing in the area of love. So there is an opportunity to meet someone, quote unquote, new for a love relationship, except they're probably not brand new. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, Mercury's making a sextile to Neptune. And so there is an opportunity to get a closer, happier relationship with your partner. And I think it's because the two of you are more focused on what is fun, what can we do as a couple, maybe going out with other couples, maybe going into groups, maybe being more social, doing things together, though. I think that's going to bring you closer. It's a sextile. That means that you have to initiate some sort of action. You have to suggest it. And so, because if you just wait for your partner to suggest it and they're not Pisces, they're not doing this energy, then it may not happen. So there is an opportunity for a better love relationship over the next 2 weeks. Now, when it comes to friendships, there is an opportunity here. Saturn is making a semi-sextile to Neptune, plus you have Sun, Mercury, and Pluto in that house, the 11th house. That is an opportunity to expand your circle of friends, especially by being out there in the community. So this is kind of piggybacking on the better relationship energy. This is if you're going out with your partner to things, you're going to meet people so that you as a couple can make some friends. And then if you are a solo person, you just going out and meeting groups of people, you're going to find potential friends amongst those groups. So this is a really good time to expand it. With the semi-sextile energy, the hardest part is to get past that force field on your front door. It's like, the sofa's comfortable and, it's cold outside. And so there is that hesitation. If you can get past that little friction, then it comes out very well. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Mars that is retrograde in your 4th house. And so kind of piggybacking on what we said before, this is looking at how you might be holding yourself back financially based on your upbringing, based on things your parents believed, or based on things that your family in general does. So that would be something to look at, because you have an opportunity to remove those blocks by questioning, the different beliefs that you have, to say, is this true? Is this helpful? To really dissolve those obstacles to more money. Now, of course, this also says that money could be had through real estate, family business, or pooling money with family members to get something going. Also, things that involve home, like home health care, construction, interior design, all of those things are all possibilities that you could, especially if you've already started them, you could continue them. Or if you thought about them a while back, it's time to think about those again. Now, when it comes to traditional investments or money from your business, Mars is making a trine to Venus, so you have some big opportunities here to make more money than usual. And this should be fairly easy, fairly straightforward. So that would be just more people coming to you, more people buying your investments, going in the direction that brings you profits. So this is some really good energy for you. I expect that you'll be making more money over the next 2 weeks. Now, when it comes to money derived from your career, so like a paycheck, even though Mars is not making an aspect with Saturn, you have the Sun, Mercury, and Pluto in that house. That's your 11th house. That is an opportunity for you to shine in this area. So I do think there's a possibility, but I'm going to say the caveat is you probably had to bring it up already. Because there's no aspect, because the Mercury is retrograde, like the two of you can come together to discuss something you've discussed before, but if you spring this on your supervisor and you hadn't built up some sort of history of it, I think that your supervisor is just going to bump you into the next. I think your supervisor is just going to bump you into the next, cycle or into the next month. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please subscribe. And stay tuned, because LaRue wants to say hi.